And hello, everyone, and welcome out to Walk-Ons for another beautiful Sunday night. We're here with Game On CENLA. I'm Doug Gann, and just a great place to be on a Sunday afternoon. Of course, I'm joined on my left by Will Norris of BWS Sports. Will covers all of that western Central Louisiana side, covering Sabine, Beauregard, and Vernon parishes. And, of course, Lamar Gafford, who covers all the rest of that, plus some of that from the Town Talk, and you see the guys that are joining us. Will, welcome to the show.
Oh, man, great to be back. Had a great week last week. We've upgraded a little bit this week. New graphics, got us a little banner every day trying to get better.
Just trying to get better. That's right. That sounds like some pretty good coach speak. We're going to go out here and we're going to work on just getting a little better each time. And one of those guys that helps bring us all of that together and get a little better each week from the Town Talk is Lamar Gafford. Lamar, welcome aboard.
Hey, I'm glad to be here. And like I said, week two of this for us, week 3 coming up. So week 2 was really a good year, good week.
Week 2 wasn't bad. We talked about it last week. A couple of the games that we mentioned, of course, was the local game of the week, and I say that because they got a lot of ribbing for calling the Pineville Menard game the game of the week when the statewide game of the week was right across the river on there. But we've talked a lot about those. Your take on the 2 big games out of here this week?
Well, I mean, first off, we'll start off with the Ash game against St. Thomas More, and I think this was pretty much a statement win for Ash. I mean, they get the 2-0, but they also beat a good team, the team that won the Division II championship the last 2 years, and a very good quarterback while doing that. And, getting a chance to talk to some of those players, they feel like that this really helps them out. This really lets them know that, hey, we're here, we're ready to roll and all that. But also the Pineville Menard game, I think that was a pretty good game. Congratulations to Brian Bell for getting his first win.
Right. We talked to him a little bit on the scoreboard show afterwards, and just a great game. He was excited about it. Asked him about the cannon, as I always do, because coming from Tioga and not used to that cannon or not liking that cannon when you're over at Tioga, he said it still scared him when he was coming out the first time. But I agree. Will, you got some updates throughout the night on that Ash St. Thomas More game. What did you think about that, and what is some of the talk from West Louisiana on that?
Well, over our way, I kept watching you live and just trying to keep up with it. Then I had a few people texted me, and just the Trojans just kept putting points on the board. And once it kind of got to be a big lead, I said, that was a true definition of a statement win early on for Ash.
Indeed, it was. Got to talk about some of your key players out of our area, Lamar. Let's talk about those. I know you did some updates. Grant, another big win, too.
Yeah, another big win. They got a 36-30 win against Mamou, so they now go up to 2-0. But some of the key guys here that we had this week, of course, we got to start off with Jarvis Newton, 256 and 5 touchdowns in that game against St. Thomas More. I think he's still scoring right now. I think he's still scoring, by the way.
But Ash goes on an 8.5-minute drive with 10 minutes to go. The only time they've been stopped from getting into the end zone all season was on that one when they go for it on 4th and 8 rather than punt, rather than kick the field goal or whatever it was. That's the only time. Still haven't punted this year at all.
That's quite incredible. And when you don't do that, you're pretty much going to win ball games. But also some of the other guys here that really stepped up in the area. Carlos Bassett, I really want to give him a shout out. He had 378 yards and 4 touchdowns as a Bull scored. Now, get this right, and I'm not saying this is a misprint.
This is football, not basketball.
86 points.
How do you do it? 12 minutes, carry the forward, halftime. Did they play at halftime, too? How did they get 86 points?
I don't know. But I will say this. We got a chance to talk to Coach Boone during our coaches' press conference every Monday, and Coach Boone said, hey, we're gonna do like we did in Rocky III. We're gonna bring the pain, and I think they really brought the pain and the points to Carroll that night.
They did that, sending a statement out there, Will, and I know as you're keeping up with updates throughout the night, you see that big point total put up by Andy Boone and that Avoyelles Mustang team. What are your thoughts on that?
I just love Andy's style. Andy's brother Boomer is the one that we started the radio gig with. Me and Lamar's known Boomer all the way forever, and Andy don't punt. I love that. Andy coaches the same way I always played Madden. You don't punt. I'm going for it on 4th down, and we watched him a couple years ago with who was that? We were there, Lamar, and it was like 99-98. Almost that. But
I think
Lakeview?
Yeah, Lakeview.
Lakeview a couple years ago.
Lakeview was putting up all the points that they did.
And they battled all night long, and that was one of the best, most exciting high school games we'd ever went to. And I just think that Coach Boone and them, we talked about it last week. We're not saying they're going to beat Manny, but I'm just telling you, any way possible, I'm going to be at that game.
That is going to be a big one. We need to move that to a Thursday night,
yes.
or hopefully that's on a Thursday night when one of those that we cover is on a Friday night and or a Thursday, and we can get over there. So speaking of your Madden reference, I made a Tecmo Bowl reference Friday night on
yes, sir.
the air. That's right. Well,
yes, sir.
It just seemed like both of the teams would just drop back and throw the ball deep like you do. You'd run your quarterback all the way back and just throw the ball. And a lot of the young people in there didn't get that reference on it.
I loved
but a
it.
couple of the older officials knew, just take the Raiders and Bo Jackson. And
Every time.
And you were going to be fine in that one. So a couple others to look at.
Yeah, some of the other guys here to look at. Kalen DeMars out of Daggett Central. Shout out to the Chiefs going 2-0. But right now he had 111 yards and 2 touchdowns and 14 carries in that game. Some of the other guys that I really thought that kind of stepped up this week too. One from around Will's way here, Grant Ducote, 189 yards and 6 touchdowns and a 47-0 shutout against South Bow.
Look, Rosepine just doing their thing. Another big performance out of Fry. Over from your way, too. So some of the guys that really stood out in your neck of the woods, if you will.
Well, I mean, Ethan's, comes to mind. I think the first week he had 1 incompletion. This week, 14 for 15, 234 yards and a touchdown.
So 2 weeks, 2 incompletions.
Yes.
He's got to get better. He's
Yes.
got to get back on the field. Ethan, I'm just joking with you, of course, and you know that, and it's going to be great to meet you. But
yeah, you can get ready. I talked to Coach Ducote last night for about 30 minutes. We're getting something set together to where everything we can see is going to be full of purple here in the very near future, and look forward to seeing those kids. Grant's 189. Lamar was on 12 carries. So it wasn't like he got, 25 carries. And, and I think his mom's going to complain to the coach, but I don't know how, it will do a little good. But, his dad's Brad. We've been lifelong friends, and Brad would never intentionally, try to put 100 on Coach Hudler in South Beauregard. That was their first game back at South Bow in 2 years through the hurricane. So, it was an emotional night for those kids, but they just, South Bow dropped 0-2. But, I mean, Rosepine's going to be hard to match in their offensive explosion.
Well, defensively, I don't think they're struggling either. 0 against Rosepine and 0 against South Beauregard. So they've yet to give up a point.
They've yet to give up a point, and they've yet to give up 100 yards of offense on either game.
Wow. So another big thing to look at. This might be a little more difficult than I had originally thought, having just one quarterback. On our fantasy team is what I talk about at the end of the season, the 2 running backs. Lamar, I take back all the grief I've ever given you when it comes to, not all of it, but when it comes to all CENLA, I'll take that away because there are just so many that in our Central Louisiana is going to encompass what we say on our billboard from Toledo Bend over to the mighty Mississippi. So we're going to start working our way over to that Faraday Vidalia area as well. So not only just, yes, if you're the 5 or 6 schools in this area in Rapides Parish, you want to be able to be a part of that. But, man, this thing's going to stretch Grant, Avoyles, Vernon, Sabine, Beauregard, all the way over Catahoula, LaSalle, all of that. 1 quarterback is all we get.
Yeah.
2 running backs is all we get. 2 wide receivers. I'm telling you, it's going to be a little more difficult because week after week you're having big performances put up.
Yes, absolutely. And like I said, every single week we look at this top performers list, and it's just been quite incredible. I will say this. We had 4 running backs, of course, with Jarvis, Grant, London Williams, and also Carlos Bazzard. I did the math earlier yesterday morning, and they had 4 of them combined for 1,100 yards and 20 touchdowns.
Yes, sir.
4 running backs.
4 running backs.
Unbelievable.
And that's why in years past, people don't know how hard Lamar works on the All CENLA stuff. I do the All Vernon Parish team every year, and we get a little grief here and there. Then we put it together, me and him, with the All CENLA, and we have changed it over the course from 9 at night to midnight when we posted it. We've changed it 3 times before. Just going back and just looking at these kids, just doing our best to get it right.
Right.
And here we are wanting to. Hey, Doug, here's an idea. I want to add in. East as well. So let's go further. Let's put Grant in there. Let's put Avoyles. Let's put Catahoula. Let's put LaSalle. Let's go all the way to the Mississippi River. And you guys have said, okay, sure.
Yeah, let's do it.
This is going to be a tough challenge. But I'm going to tell you, the one that comes out on top of this There's going to be so many arguments, but, man, it's going to be – and they're going to get one of our new shirts, too, that are going to be out there.
Nice.
We're going to come out. We've got our Game On CENLA shirts. You see the logo behind us on the wall here at Walk-Ons in Alexandria. Lamar, we're going to get some T-shirts made, and guests on the show are going to be able to get those, and we're going to have those for sale as well. So a lot of great things that are coming out of that. We've got to take our first break of the night. When we come back, I want to talk a little bit about Manny rebounding and coming back in that game. They played DeRidder, and it looked like they were just pretty aggravated in that game, the way they came out scoring and continued to put up points. So we're going to talk a little bit of Manny football as well as some others. Leesville goes up and plays in the Battle of the Border
and Tioga.
Up there, and Tioga went up there. We're going to talk about all of that. We'll do that when we come back. You're listening to Game On CENLA, 446 Sports presentation, live from Walk-Ons.
It all started with a sketch on a napkin. An idea created by two walk-on bench warmers. And after 10 years of hard work and perseverance to turn their dream into a reality, it's the #1 sports bar in America.
Welcome to Walk-On.
Walk-ons, because everyone needs a little playing time.
The fine folks at BK Distributors want to thank all the educators for weathering the storms, so to speak, through 2020 and beyond. Thank you for your dedication to our children. The end of the school year awards are now available. Any type of award, trophies, banners, plaques, they do it all at BK Distributors. So with school almost out, that means summer leagues are in full swing. New items, same great prices, and fast turnaround. BK Distributors, Highway 20 in East Pineville behind Arby's.
Back live to Walk-Ons. It is Game On CENLA. I am Doug Gann alongside of Lamar Gafford from the Town Talk, Will Norris from BWS Sports.
Easy for you to say.
Yeah, and I'm looking right at it, too.
I need to get it on the sign, man.
Speaking of that sign, give us a little a thought on that. Where did that come from?
That beautiful sign behind us on vinyl is a multicolored, nice, great-looking sign. Comes from Crier Sports in beautiful downtown Leesville. Miss Nikki and Pat Harvey on the company. Like you always say, shop local. Everything on my page, logos, T-shirts, rings, hats, shirts, all comes from Criers. If you want to know where something I got, my backpack, anything else, that everything comes from Criers. Proud supporter of all Vernon Parish sports, all Vernon Parish schools. They proudly support our youth league. I got the biggest youth league in Louisiana with over 1,500 kids. And, all our stuff comes from Criers. And, Parish tournament, all the awards come from Criers. I mean, everything we post on our page comes from there, and it's just a great local business to have in our area that can get anything for any school, as well as any kind of awards they need.
There you go. Let's get back into your page a little bit before we go to talking about Manny and some of the other games over there. BWS Sports, BWS space sports on there. If you'll look that up and go give them a follow. If you're one of those, the 16,048 that you're not in that group, 16,048 followers. I think Nick Mikulas is the only one around here that's got more of that. And all you've got to do is predict hurricanes, and you might can catch up to that. That's a rare Nick Mikulas. Look, a story, and we're going to get back into football. I promise you that. Nick lives right down the road from me, okay? And so he's walking down the road right before a storm, and I'm looking out the window because I'm faking that I'm washing dishes because anyway, so Nick's down there, and the storm's coming. I'm like, look, this is like the neighbors of Jim Cantori must feel that way when Jim starts walking by. Is he out walking, or is there really a storm coming up? So, yeah, that was great. So, anyway, we'll get back into Manny football. Manny, of course, loses game 1 to Union Parish, and there's some fallout from that Union game as well we'll talk about in just a moment. But recap that Manny game for us, Will.
Well, Manny came out and made a statement. London Williams, another one of those running backs Lamar talked about, 281 yards, 5 touchdowns. And we talked about, Coach Boone never punts.
Right.
Well, Manny never threw the ball. So, Tackett never attempted to pass.
You say that jokingly like they only threw a few, right?
No, 0, bro.
0? Well,
Manny never threw a pass.
So Tackett had less incompletions than Ethan Fry on the night. Is that what you're telling me?
He really did.
There's an angle that I'm working. No,
yeah. Well, Brad might have to bench him, but man, But the big fella, big Corey Jones, and we know the O-line don't get a whole lot of love. This kid's probably 6'3", about 275. When he clears a hole, you could basically drive through it, and he made holes all night long. London had 281, and then they who was it? Oh, Javion Smart. He scored on a big 92-yard kickoff return, and then Jeremiah Jones got about 12 carries. He had 94 yards and a touchdown. And then on the defensive side of the ball, Tackett playing quarterback now, and defense is where he's got, 121 offers. He had an interception, for goodwill at the end of the game to remind everybody that, hey, I can play defense still too.
So he had more interceptions than incompletions.
Yes, sir.
Wow.
I see what you did there, Lamar. Yes, sir. That is good. That's going to be difficult. He's a potential candidate possibly for a two-way fantasy player because we're going to look at the defensive side of the ball as well. So not to put too much more on you guys.
Well, and then like Tylen Singleton was the state championship game most valuable player. And, that's a kid that, didn't have a whole lot of numbers the other night, but just his sheer presence on the field, every time he touches it, he can take it to the house. So he's making all his teammates, job a little bit easier by having him on there with you.
All right, so the update from the game prior, the Union and the Manny game. We talked about the issues that were there pre-game and during and after the game and all of that. Self-imposed 3-game ban. Tell us a little bit about that, Lamar. Did you?
Yeah, I didn't really get a chance to see a lot of it here, but I did see that Coach Spatafora had self-imposed himself a three-game ban pretty much. I think he said it on the morning drive up there in Monroe. So, it was kind of a tough situation right there from everything that we kind of heard about. I know it's it's kind of tough to see what is hearsay and what is not hearsay,
right.
But it's just tough.
Will, some of your insight on that?
Well, I think that that you try to handle it the best way in house before you get the paperwork sent into the LHSAA or to wherever you might want to file a complaint with or whatever. I think that they stepped up and just with that ban, I think it eliminated any drama involved with it, and that just shows that some of these teams, some coaches don't hold their teams accountable, and I was just glad to see this happen because, if you're a Manny Tiger fan or a player or a coach, of course you're going to be mad after that incident, but to handle that now to where if those teams, was to meet again next year, of course they're 3A, but if they met next year or if they got the home schedule, you might put that issue to rest to let the kids know it's about football, not about the drama.
Indeed, it is. So we look forward to seeing how that plays out. Good work from Spatafora to go ahead and do that self-imposition of the ban on there. One of the things this weekend we want to move on to, the Battle of the Border. The Battle of the Border was there, and that's been a long-standing event that's been going up there. For the first time, I think, in recent memory, we've had some local teams get up there and play that. Tioga was up there. Leesville was up there. First Tioga's trip up.
Yeah, Tioga faced against my alma mater, the Seabird Yellow Jackets, and unfortunately lost that one 18-3. But it was a pretty. I guess just looking at it here from what this Tioga team has been continuing to do here, they've been in some ball games. They're 0-2, but they've been in some ball games, and it looks like every single time that Coach Cook coaches this team, I think they're more like a team that catches fire a little bit late as they roll around. And I think they're going to definitely do that. But, of course, they're just going to go through some growing pains because, this schedule that they have to start off the season, it's kind of brutal.
It is, and it's certainly a step up from what we've seen in the past on there. And a lot of this, as you strengthen your schedule, is working on where your seeding is going to be. We've seen some 5-5 teams in the top 10 in the seeding in the power rankings, but then we've seen some 9-1, 8-2 teams that are down in the lower. In your idea, one, you want to be top 16, of course, but you want to be top 8 so you can get a couple of those games in at home.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, it's all about strategy. It's of course about okay, are you a senior laden team or your team doesn't have a lot of seniors? So, of course, that has to play a lot into this. I think with them playing this schedule, though, this is going to help them down the road because when they get into district play, when they have to face against the Leesvilles, the Ritters, the Boldens, and even the Peabodys, I think they're going to be okay once it gets along on the road.
Well, they roll into a big rivalry game as it's Tioga Pineville week in week 3. And I guess it's the first time Tioga is going to be at home this season.
Yeah, I think it is the first. Yeah, it is the first time
Because they were Como and then
So it is the first time they're going to be at the reservation. Of course, that's going to be charged up because not just only the rivalry aspect, but of course you got the student versus teacher thing with Coach Bell and Coach Cook facing against each other for the first time. So I'm pretty sure that they're going to keep their cards to the vest a little bit, shall we say?
Right.
And I don't think anybody's going to give any. There's going to be a lot of coach speak, like you said.
Pineville's coming in charged up. They get the victory over Menard in the game of the week. I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna stop with that. But then you have they're 1-1 and Tioga yet to get a win. There's a lot on the line in this game. Bragging rights, momentum, energy, whatever you want to bring into it. That's a good one to go and check out. Leesville made the trip up as well. They didn't fare, both still a loss, but didn't really fare as well as they ran into a buzzsaw when they got to Shreveport.
Oh, when they went up against Captain Shreve, Coach Causey had told me Thursday that was the best team they were going to play all year on their schedule, as far as it looked. And they went up there and got beat 54-0. Didn't start Jerome at quarterback, started the other guy. And anyway, they nothing happened right early. A safety to start the game, and then everything went downhill after that. And Coach Causey said after the game last night, sometimes you got to get punched in the face and taste your own blood to get better. And just like with Coach Cook at Tioga, both coaches went up there knowing they were playing really good teams. Both coaches lost, but it's preparing them for that week 7, 8, 9, 10 matchup in district that's going to decide the district championship, and it could be against each other. And then it's going to definitely prepare them for the playoffs because last year we seen Tioga lost to the number 1 team in 5A, and then they lost in the quarters to the eventual state champs. So, I mean, that's those matchups that's preparing them for that now to take to the next level. And, 2 years ago, Coach Causey then made the semifinals.
That's right. And, look, it must be great. I'm not saying easy by any means, all the teams that you cover, but it's got to be great having such vocal coaches that you cover because I know that Robbie Causey is a walking soundbite. When you just ask him a question and sit back and you're going to hear an answer.
I'm the only man I know that took him a birthday cake he likes those cookie cakes, so I take him one every year on his birthday. I get a kick out of that. His texts I don't delete. I keep them for a long time. Anytime, anywhere, any place you see him, it's always something you're going to remember. And then one of my favorite things is he's always at the basketball game. So when you're doing a boys and girls game, you're kind of sitting there where you always got entertainment at Leesville because, hey, Coach, I got a mic. Come up here. I got 10 minutes at halftime. Well, he's going to burn up 10 minutes and 2 seconds of that at halftime.
And can I add I'll go ahead and add to that, too. If you look at our page, I know it's at least on the Shreveport Times page, but I know it's also on the Town Talk page. He had a very good some things to say about 9/11. So get a chance to check that out as well.
Yeah, 20th anniversary of it. You saw a lot of schools coming out. They were coming out with the American flag. A lot of them had tributes to it. We did as well on our show Friday night from Ash. And so it's just it's great to see the memory. It's tragic that it takes a catastrophe to bring this country together, but it certainly does in a big way, and that's something that'll never be forgotten is that September 11th day 20 years ago. Going to take our second break of the game of the day. When we come back, we're going to start looking at, we're going to do two things. We'll look at where the records are standing for the teams that we're going to cover, some surprises, maybe some both bad and good, and then we're going to start looking ahead at some Week 3 matchups that we think are going to pique a lot of people's interest. We're going to do that when we return. This is Game on CENLA. It's a 446 Sports production right here, live from Walk-Ons.
From the second you step in our front door, we work with each client individually, taking the time to understand their unique lifestyles and their wishes and their needs. When we search through properties for you, it's more than just a number of bedrooms or a zip code. It's about your life, and that's what's important to us. We work with you until we find that home of your dreams. When we do find that perfect home, we walk you through the process from the first step of making the offer all the way through until closing day, and we hand over those keys. Let the Trish Lala Group go to work for you, and let us help you find that dream home.
go. I am Doug Gann alongside of Lamar Gafford, Will Norris, and a big shout out to Brandy Fry. She was watching.
Mama Eagle.
See, there you go. Proud supporter. Good a question I'll send out to her over Facebook and over what we're doing is, how many Eagles are going to be in here
in the nest
for Rose Pine night? I don't know. The record, Ash set the record last year, but that was before the state championship game. So we need to get per capita count of it because Alexandria is a little bit bigger town. But we think that Rose Pine can come out en masse and bring that out. So we're looking forward to setting up Rose Pine night. But if you're watching on the show, there are a few of you that are out there. Send us a message if you have a question for Lamar, for Will. If you've got a question for me, that's fine, too. I don't think it'll add much substance to your day, but feel free to do that or just give a shout-out if you've got, I don't know, a stat of a game that you saw or something that you think is important. Go ahead and do that. Now, the question that I want to get into, standings, looking at some of those. Will, is it shaking out after 2 games about what you expected down in your area?
Yeah, it really did, and a game that I kind of look forward to on the schedule as a Pickering Red Devil alumni. I don't know what the season's going to entail. I do know I was happy that we had 21 kids dressed out on Friday night, which, right now at this day and time is really good for them just to keep the program alive. When the count goes in October, they're going to at least be a 1A school at a minimum. They're not going to be 2A anymore. But East Beauregard's a 1A team that came in there, and the only problem really with that game was that it was 54-35, so you got points on the board. Marlon Squirt Freeney returned at quarterback for Pickering. He accounted for 5 touchdowns. He had 2 passing and 3 rushing. So he did all he could do to help his team. But on the other side, that wing double T from East Bow, you can't keep up with those kids. I know I never could. I hated broadcasting their games. But I love Coach Simmons and them boys just for the sheer tenacity of how they play. Kane Atkinson, another 200-yard week. He had 3 touchdowns. Caleb Johnson, 109, 481 yards of offense. So the Red Devils, they put points on the board, but they couldn't stop nobody, and they've allowed 81 points through the first 2 games. So you got to get your defense better if you're going to try to compete. And then this week, Lamar talked about it the other day where Bunkie rolled Marksville.
Right.
Well, they didn't play this week. Now Bunkie's headed into Pickering this Friday night, and I think the Red Devils is going to have their hands full this week.
Well, that'll be exciting to see on that one. Let me ask you, you said they dressed out how many people?
21.
21. And reclassifications coming up. You expect them to go down to 1A?
Yes, definitely.
Is there anything on the horizon that you see that ever puts them down to B or C?
Well, I mean, in all honesty, they've got about 6 more kids in Anacoca.
Right.
So if Pickering did not have football, they would be Class B. So the only difference between them and Anacoca or any other Class B schools, they're basically a B school with football, which puts them in the 1A district.
Football. Right, I got you.
Yes, so they take the option to have the football. And with the way that Fort Polk is now compared to the way it was, you don't have those huge families out there where, Leesville and Rose Pine and Pickering used to all get kids from there. Now it's kind of limited, and now if you come into the military and your kid's an athlete, you look at Leesville, Coach Causey, you look at Rose Pine with Brad and Jeff, and, Pickering, they were 0-10 and 1-9, and then Russo went, we won 3 games one year and 4 or 5 the next.
Right.
But you're not going to be, you're not going to be going to that school if that's what you're looking at from the athletic standpoint, and you got to play with what you got. And first-year head coach Jared Underwood's doing that.
Right.
And the kids never quit. They played East Beauregard to the final buzzer, but there's not a whole lot there to work with.
Well, you got to love the passion and the fire that they bring to keep on going up because, again, it's easy to coach teams when you've got 100 kids out there. I don't say easy by any means, but when you've got the numbers that are out there, when you're having to go and make do with 21, 31, 25, whatever it is, kids on there, it's because you love the game and love these and pouring into these young men's lives. And so kudos to that group over there for doing that. That's
all they can do. Got a couple good young freshmen. Desiree Privatera had 4 catches, 100 yards, 2 touchdowns. On the offensive line, they got Buck O'Banion and Cameron Blackwell. A couple returning players, but just not a whole lot. Savion Adams is a baby bull. A tackling machine, but one kid can't tackle 10. And East Beauregard just basically ran all over them all night long. But you had to be proud of your Red Devil fan. They fought, but when you go to a high school football game. And I'm not, for one time in my life, trying to be funny, But when you go to a high school football game and you got more people in the band than you do dressed on football, or you have more signs around the field than you do dressed out for football, that's not a good sign. And all you can do is just hope and pray for those kids because, they still have to play Rose Pine and Kinder and North DeSoto, so it's not going to get any easier for them.
Right. Well, we're going to follow the progress of those Red Devils at Pickering and look for things to go on. In our area or in around, what do you see, Lamar?
Yeah, I think one of the surprises so far this season, I kind of talked a little bit about them early in the show, but Natchez Central is one of my surprises so far this year. This is a team that lost 16 of their last 18 games over the last couple of years, and it wasn't because of their defense. They have always had a stout defense, but it's just because the offense has kind of been a little bit. Kind of been a little bit behind, and I think the offense is really now starting to catch up a little bit, and we've seen that over the last couple of weeks, beating Woodlawn and also beating Peabody. I think those are 2 wins here that they could look at, and I think that can carry them along. They got West Washita, who just lost to, I think, Jonesboro Hodge last week, so it's going to be interesting to see what they do against a 5A team, and then they get into district play, playing against those tough teams up there in Shreveport, starting off with Airline, I think, in week 4.
Look, North Louisiana has picked up. It's always been the talk of the south part of the state where you get down into the Lake Charles and the Lafayette areas and Baton Rouge and New Orleans and all that. But lately you're seeing some good football that's played up north.
Yeah, you sure have. I mean, like you said, most of the public schools up there have really been doing a pretty good job. I mean, you look at Captain Shreve, of course, with their star athlete, with the Law kid up there, he's playing pretty well. Of course, Bird has been playing well, of course, with their option-style offense. And just so many other teams that they have right there. Hardin, one of those other schools out there that has constantly churned out prospects and going on to the next level. So they've really done a very good job up there. And it's, a lot of people always used to say about Northwest Louisiana, well, it just used to be the Evangel and Calvary show. But now the public schools are starting to rise up a little bit there.
Dude, how I guess big of a message is it of how far teams can fall when you just look at that Evangel program and see how much they're struggling.
Them and Jonesboro Hodge is another one that kind of comes to my mind.
Yeah. You have teams that have success so long, and then the coach will go and things will go away. And man, it just falls off the face of the map. Nobody wanted to schedule Evangel. They're having to get national games on there, and now people are licking their chops to get Evangel.
It's crazy because I think 20 years ago when I was a sophomore in high school, wow, I'm dating myself right now.
Yeah, well, we were going to our 20-year reunion. That's what we were doing.
But I say that we played Evangel in 1 week of the season, and we were excited that we got 3 points off of them.
Right.
3. And now just to see them, of course, week 1 last year, they lost to General Trash, which we thought that was a bad loss. Now, it turned out to beat General Trash as a really good team.
General Trash isn't bad.
Right.
That's
They're a really good team. But it's just kind of crazy just to see how far they've really fallen off.
Look closer to home, Lamar, that LaSalle area. They pick up St. Mary's in there. I think Montgomery is in there. What do you see in that district?
Right now, I still think Logan Sport is the better team in that district. I just think that the 2 games that they lost, they lost to really tough teams, Calvary, and I forgot who the other one is. But this is going to be, of course, a team that's going to be probably the district champion once it's all said and done. But I still think St. Mary's is going to be the second best team in the district. I like their young squad. Ethan Busby is a very good sophomore receiver. Also, Adam Parker, he's a very good quarterback. He's a junior. So I think they got a lot of good pieces, and they even beat Logan Sport last year on a trick play to lose the year, to the game final. So, I think they can be right there with them. It's just going to be interesting to see how the rest of the district all shakes out.
All right, so week 3 is
LaSalle scored 70 points in 2 games, too.
Yeah, they have.
Who's going to stop them? That's right. So, look, when you've seen a lot of points come out of that area, and you go back and we'll look at that too. Northwood Lena, they've got a lot of new coaches over there and a resurgence in their program.
Absolutely. And just because they lost by 2 to Gaydon, they were right there in the ball game. I think Gaydon won it. I think they lost. They had a last-second 2-point conversion that didn't go true for them. But just for them to be right there in the ball game, they made the leaps and bounds.
that's a team name that you know if somebody's from Louisiana and pronounces it, you can find out right away if they're not. If they can't say Gaydon, is it Guyton? They're from Guyton?
Hey, or Basil.
Right.
You know,
Your boy Schoonover was Basil the 2 years we had him over here.
You know, the further south I-49, I'm starting to get right on these pronunciations.
You're doing
Well,
fine because
LaSalle's-
aren't you from Lower Arkansas? Is where you're at?
East Texas.
Okay, one of those, right?
Well, LaSalle's played in our neck of the woods twice. They opened the season with East Bow and beat them 36-30. Now this week they're coming to Maryville, so another good matchup for those teams to see where they stand.
Week 3 is upon us now. We've had our 24 hours to dwell on the games. We give ourselves the kind of about a 36-hour rule
There we go.
to get through Week 2 games, and we've wrapped that up. Now, want to look at some of the things you think will coming out of your area for Week 3 that we can look at.
Well, something's got to give. It's either going to be the East Beauregard offense or the Rose Pine defense. Like we said, Rose Pine hadn't allowed 100 yards in either game. They haven't been scored on either game. East Beauregard comes in after dropping 54 on Pickering. So, we know they can score. But then on the other side of the ball, the Rose Pine Eagles, they dropped 47 the other night, and basically Coach Ducote's not played the starters in either game against Oberlin or South Beauregard in the fourth quarter. And the plethora of weapons, Isaiah Stinson I told you about last week, 8 catches, 79 yards. Cole Donahue, my favorite tight end, with 100 yards. And then on the defensive side of the ball, which has not really been talked about this year, Michael Woods, Lane Willis, Jake Smith, all those kids are tremendous. Braden Trolls led them in tackling both games. And I think in all phases of the game, Rose Pine's solid, but I think their first real test of the season is going to be Friday night at home against East Beauregard. And I look to see, how many possessions, because Coach Simmons is going to do that wing double T and try to eat that clock up.
Right.
And then the Eagles, you got to have a little bit of patience where you finally get the ball. You can't go out there and force an interception or something bad happen, and then you don't get the ball back for another 8 minutes. So I think it's going to be clock control for East Beauregard, and then it's got to be patience for the Eagles. And then Lamar talked about Logansport. Rose Pine still plays Logansport. Tioga still plays Manny. So those 2A coaches, you got to give them kudos. They're playing everybody they can to prepare. But I think the game of the week in our area is going to be this East Beauregard Rose Pine game over that way. And then DeRidder's going to make a trip to Jennings, and they play Coach Phelps and Jennings is sitting at 0-2. And that ain't something I expected.
That's a shock when you've got such the weapon as the Etienne kid that they have out there.
Well, Trevor's got offers from 10 out of the 16 SEC schools, and they haven't scored 20 points in neither game this year.
I just don't know. We'll have to see how that shakes out. LaGrange and Leesville, I know you've got that as one of your games that's on the radio, as well as Bunkie and Pickering. So a little bit about the LaGrange-Leesville game.
Well, I think LaGrange is going to come into the Wampa Dome, and the Cats are going to come back home. And, that's their first home game of the year. They went to Jennings and went up to Shreveport, so that's their first home game of the year. And it's going to be a big night. LaGrange and Leesville, since I was in high school, has been a rivalry, whether they played once a year or once every 5 years, just a rivalry.
I'm going to put you – let me ask you this. I'm going to put you on the spot, and I may get my man Lamar too. Why do they call it the Wampa Dome?
I have no idea.
All right, Lamar?
Well, it's a magical stadium that doesn't have
a mythical creature.
There you have
a mythical creature.
I do think they have one of the most exciting, if they still do it, pre-games where they line the motorcycles out on the field. That's great about football.
Well, get the one then it's led a lot of times by the mayor, so you get your team fired up. They come on the field, and then these kids are playing in front of their home team for the first time. So a lot of people are getting to see these kids for the first time, and I like them being at home. But I mean, like Coach Causey's been telling them, you got to get better, and you got to play as a team, and these kids will be prepared for Friday night. And then LaGrange didn't have a season last year. If y'all remember, they didn't play.
Right. Because
so
out of that area.
They took a bad lick and they went down. So I know, let's see, his name was Eli Malbrough, was a big playmaker for him. And then Marion Randolph, Marion Randolph, if those two kids are still there, they were probably two of the best players. But with no games last year, very few seniors this year, LaGrange is going to come in with limited experience. So, I mean, I'll look for the Cats to pull off a win here. But, they need to get a win and get prepared. But them and Toga are getting prepared for district, I think, every day.
That's one of those things growing up there. It's a game in Leesville where they get that touchdown, and you hear that Wampus cat, that cat roar
cat
over there. Equate that to the cannon out at Pineville. Of course, all of the cooking and all of that goes on at Gina. There are great atmospheres in high school football that you just have to get out. And one of the things that I'm noticing a little bit more of are kids playing out in the end zones and doing. They're there for a while. It looked like that it kind of went away. But these kids are out there as youngsters, just playing football with a cup or a Nerf or whatever it is. If they and being part of these programs and that type of community football is really what you like to see again.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I remember the days when I was in high school. We would to see the kids always playing outside when the game was going on. And so it's nice to even see that. Because I think we've been seeing a little bit of that in the last game between Ash and St. Thomas More, where Coach Boppert had to even get those kids off the field a little bit and be on the track.
There are a lot of folks out at that game. Want to look at the upcoming games in, I guess, the Rapides, Grant, Avoyelles area, Lamar? Let's do that after the break. I don't want to jam it into a quick segment, so let's take another break. When we come back, we're going to talk about Week 3 games around this area. You're listening to Game on CENLA. This is a 446 Sports presentation, and we're live from Walk-Ons.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, are you ready? Security Sporting Good wants to tell you all camo is 50% off, and it's fishing season. In the red corner, it's Powerhouse Combo, Zoom, and Lose. And in the blue corner, seasoned veteran Abu Garcia. These 3 name brands will take care of all your fishing needs. Plus, Old Town kayaks are coming soon. Need a handgun? In stock, Springfield, Sig, Glock, and Smith & Wesson at Security Sporting Goods, 2220 Memorial Drive, Alexandria.
The following things are just plain wrong. Pouring coffee into a light socket. Dressing a 300-pound man in a tiny pink Speedo. And hiring an unqualified employee for your business.
Express Employment Professionals in Alexandria is here to assist you in hiring that right employee or helping you find your perfect career. Apply online at expresspros.com/AlexandriaLA.
We are back live to Walk-Ons, and look, I don't know what's better, the on-air talk or the off-air reminiscing that Will and Lamar do, and we'll get it. You guys were talking about great football names that have been in the past on there, and you tell us a little bit about that, Will.
Well, I mean, we got another one. Maryville's new quarterback this year. The coach is Bart Cody, and his son's name's Remington. So, I mean, just, hey, that's who I want at my quarterback. If I'm playing fantasy or Tecmo Bowl, I see his name, I'm taking him.
Right.
I'm
don't care what it is. Yeah,
I talked about Colt Brennan at University of Hawaii and Lamar. We were talking about the ULM quarterback, and that's just one of them cool things. And speaking of Maryville, I don't want to disrespect the kid that's still there, and the coaches still think he's about 30 years old. But Cameron Williams is still there. He's the right age. He's a legal player. But this kid started the season let's see, what did he tell me? He needed 734 yards to get 5,000 in his career.
Wow.
So really impressive. A good kid, a sweet kid. They played Evadale Friday night. They had a lead to late. They ended up losing the game. But they're in that 1A district. Another team preparing. Dylan Brown's a really good wide receiver for them. But our buddy, Coach Josh Walker, coached basketball there. He played at Fairview, played at LSUS. Josh went last year, first-year head coach, took the basketball team to the quarterfinals where they hadn't been. Nobody could find out since when. And now that's rolled over into football and baseball. These kids at Maryville know what it's like to win now. They've experienced winning, and that's what Bart's trying to do with the football kids. They haven't won district since back in the 90s, and they're not saying we're going to win state, but they're saying we're going to give you heck to get that first district title up under our belts in over 20 years at Maryville, and those kids are believing in it, and they're preparing. They lost week 1, they lost week 2, but they're all close losses, and they're all battling. They had a fourth quarter lead, and Marion Hill took back a 68-yard kickoff return for a touchdown. The crowd was going crazy, and Evadale just come out and just kept scoring and scoring, and at the end they pulled it out. But, I mean, just Maryville, I think, is going to be a surprise team. And Bart replaced Coach Jones. Coach Jones is a great man and a good coach. And, and Bart's continuing the success with the Maryville program, and they're way out there on the Sabine River that nobody ever looks, sees, or talks about. And he just texted me and said, just mentioning his team meant a lot to him, much less a story up on the BWS Sports page, and mentioning these kids because in our area we got 8 football schools and we have 8 scores, and everybody has a score and stats because we're thankful that the coaches in our area, and Lamar has 7 kinds of heck over here. If you don't see it on the BWS page or if you don't see it in the Town Talk or the Leesville Leader, wherever we're working at, your coach didn't send it to us.
Right.
So we have to email them, call them, text them, beg them, and when you finally get the stats, it's 3 days too late, and then you can't go back and repost it. It's old news then.
And they're not fussing at the coach, though.
No.
They're fussing at, how come you don't have my baby?
Please
on
email us.
Lamar, like last week, a prime example last week, I had a certain mom call me and 3 aunts. Lamar don't like my baby. And I said, well, Lamar don't get the stats until I get them, and I got them on Sunday afternoon on the way to the show. So Lamar didn't have your baby in his top 10 performers. Right. But once we get that information, then, we'll update it. But, Lamar can only do so much. And I'm blessed to have my tag team partner in Daniel Green, who him and Lamar work as a 6-man tag a lot of nights. And you do the best you can to get it. But, if your coach is willing to send it in to us or your statistician, and that's what Coach Cody's got at Rosepine, Coach Michael Gomez, we get the stats game night sometime between about 9 and 11. It's an email, and I've got him set up after last week where it goes to me, Lamar, Daniel, everybody it needs to go to so that the Rosepine kids are going to get the coverage they deserve. And then, like Coach Bart sent me his stuff from Maryville, so those kids get recognized and their names out there.
All right, so here's what we need to set up then. We need to set up a Maryville night here at Walk-Ons, bring the team in. The challenge is the gauntlet's been laid down there to Rosepine. All of these teams, these are the teams that we want to come in here, and we're going to set something up, a spirit night, with a portion of the proceeds that you guys get will go back into your athletic program. So it's a win for everybody. And let's get out here and let's interview these kids and let's talk to the coaches, and we'll dedicate segments and just have a Maryville takeover of the show, or a Rosepine takeover of the show. Let's let's set that up, because look, just in the 2 weeks, Will, that we've been doing this, I've learned a lot more about a lot of these teams, because you get so centered into what you're doing, and so we'd certainly love to do that. The teams that are here locally get a lot of coverage. Yep. They get a lot of coverage. We've got 4 coaches shows between the radio group, and there's just a lot going on. So this is an opportunity for the Rosepines, for the Maryvilles, for Leesville, for Manny, forever. Let's set it up. Get in touch with Will. I know your phone goes off 876 times a day. And so reach and do that. Look, isn't it great that we don't have just the limited texts and calls anymore like you did?
No,
that might have been before your time.
It was during my time. I remember that in college. And
I can't text you till tomorrow when the new month starts.
Well, you know when something happens when you hit the button and it's a triple-digit number, and then it's continuing to grow, and all it takes is you find out from one, and then you usually can go and make a post about it, and then everybody relaxes and calms down. But I just like the fact that all the coaches over in our area, that with the relationship they have with me and Daniel, you call them, they call you back, you text them, they text you back, and you can stay up to date with them, and that helps out so much over here. You can get all that to Lamar. So if you do got the Leesville Tiger playing or Peabody coming over there, you get those kids out there, and then they're covered in both areas, and that's a good thing about what you do. With the basketball and stuff, you go and do the tournaments and the Hall of Fames and different things. So we get these kids as much as we can get, and there is no part of this state or any other that I know of that does as much as we do for kids. We spend thousands of dollars a year on the kids and the schools and the school systems. The coaches know what we do. The parents and fans may or may not, and that's irrelevant when that coach knows you take care of him and his kids.
That's right. And
one of our biggest things is like you were talking about the kids, you and Lamar, and Lamar always laughs. Usually when he comes over, it's Tiger, a big game, we'll bring 100, 200 little footballs, and I give them to the cheerleaders, and I get them cheerleaders, and none of them's ever played softball before, maybe 1 or 2, or volleyball, and you go get it and you say, look, don't lob it over the fence. We want you winging it. And, hey, you give them 50, 60 footballs, they're winging it. But what I do, I take it to the visitor side too. We're not going to have one side, not the other, and I'm not hearing that. So I take them 50, you're getting 50, and we're going to throw them. And I said at halftime, make it rain.
See, that's how it ought to be. And we're doing whatever we can. And that's kind of the idea behind 446 Sports, is to bring all of this together, and that's what we want to do. One of the things, too, and just a quick interlude there into it, you can look on our 446 Sports page. If you've not liked or followed, go in there and do that. We covered the city championship in golf this morning. I know it's not high school, but out at Links on the Bayou, we covered the city championship, and the final came between Ryan Palmer and Nick Grabowski, two former LC golfers for the city championship. Ryan Palmer wins that one right at the end of that, too. So anything that we can cover or find a way to help out. We also have started booking the big charter buses. So as playoffs roll around and these teams are starting to make these big trips and you're in need of charter coach services, reach out to us here on the page because we can take care of that for you as well. The big custom motor coaches.
And beautiful pictures are on the 446 page of the buses. So I've told 2 or 3 booster clubs already. I said, look, you plan on maybe making that trip to the Dome or that quarterfinal game. Hey, I can get your kids a ride in style, I promise you.
Or if you want to go to the grocery store, load everybody up and we can take care of that too. Another birthday in house. It's funny, I used to work in a restaurant and there wouldn't be a birthday all night long until there was one. And then there was 20. It was everybody's birthday.
Or they see what they're giving away and then all of a sudden it's everybody's birthday.
Right. Fried ice cream from Cuco's. That was the end. That shows how far back that I go. I'm really dating myself. But Lamar, we tried to get into week 3, and we've just got so much going on. Tell me a little bit about week 3 and what you see around this area.
Yeah, I think we got some pretty good games. Obviously, we talked about Pineville and Tioga, but some other ones that really stand out. How about Neville coming here to Gina for a game like that here? Gina possibly getting a chance to see if they can make a statement by playing against them.
Let me tell you, that's a measuring stick for you, is playing Neville.
Talk about another measuring stick, Manny at North DeSoto. That's going to be a measuring stick type game. And, of course, a couple of other games that really stand out to me, St. Mary's and Menard, the Catholic Bowl, the Holy War as they call it over there, and also Peabody and Washington Marion. Can Peabody try to get in that win column against a historic rival down in Lake Charles?
That's always such a great game. You know, the fans coming. It doesn't matter if it's down there in the Lake Charles area, if it's up here at Peabody. It is just full to capacity, so much emotion, so much intensity in that game.
It's a great basketball game, but it's just as great as on the football field as well.
I agree with you.
You know, that's one of the things, too. You're going to see this is not just a football show. We're going to stretch this out to basketball and baseball throughout the year with you guys, because there are people that don't play it, and they don't. But we're going to get as much exposure as for these young men and women that we're able to get on there. So, Ash, this week, they go to Marksville. Won't call it anything else, but most important game on the schedule, and this is Coach Speak 101. You learned this one on day one. The most important game on the schedule is the next one. They travel over to Marksville. You got to be careful for a letdown from this big St. Thomas More game.
Absolutely, and I think I'll predict this too. I feel like Miriam Mingo, he's going to be due for a pretty big game in that one, facing against his old squad. Of course, his brother is one of the coaches over there at Marksville, so I think that he's kind of the one to probably show out against his former team.
Indeed, he is. Brandy Fry, who's listening to the show again, says reserve the bus for Rose Pine, and we've got you covered. Don't worry about that. We'll get that taken care of. Rose Pine to the Dome. Are we calling that right now?
I told Lamar before the season started, my dream matchup would be Eagles, Manny Tigers in the Dome, and just to go and watch those kids. You see them all the time. I see them all summer. I see them all year long, and I think nothing be sweeter. And they're on 171. They're about 50 miles apart, and they used to be in the same district, and now with the redistricting, they lost them again. But right now, I think Coach Jess Curtis could actually go back-to-back this year, maybe three-peat next year. And I think with Rose Pine, with the squad they got, I think this year that might be that elusive trip. I don't believe in jinxes, but they're going to the quarterfinals. And first time in school history. And then, it's going to have to be somebody with one heck of a game to knock those kids out, because after winning that baseball state championship, those kids now expect to win at anything. And
well, that's right. Expectations. That's the difference. If you're getting to the first round, the second round, and you don't have that taste, you don't know what it's like. Good to see that they have that, and there's a group there that says, you know what, and Ethan Fry was part of that baseball team, and can say, look, guys, come on, this is what it takes to do. Let's go to work.
Yeah, the last out of that game, I had my boy Chaston with me, and he was on his fisting to have the biggest heart attack ever in sports. And I'm up there, and I actually, for one time in my life, forgot about my mic, and I'm looking at Ethan, and my exact words was, I said, Ethan, bow your neck, son, and blow him away. I said, Chasten's heart won't hold it, and I'm on the live mic. And anyway, it was kind of cool, but I'm talking to Ethan like he could hear me, of course.
Right.
And I said, Ethan, blow this kid away, and let's go home. Let's end this right here, right now. And Ethan did. So obviously he heard me from the press box. You know, right. The easiest. Hey, my dad told me this: the easiest place to coach from. There's two of them. I said, Dad, where's that? He said, in the press box or in the bleachers.
That's good.
The two best places to coach from in the world. And Ethan got the big K to end the game. But a complete team effort on that baseball championship. It'll be the same way on this football championship. And what I like about these kids, and Coach Chicote's got really good parents, where if it's Logan Calco, Jake Smith, Braden Troll, whoever has a good night, they're as happy for that kid as they are their own. That's why they're where they're at now with a chance to keep moving up, because the ones that are mean-eyeing the kid or sending out text about the kid, you're never, ever going to win. And my dad said there's two kind of players that walk in the gym. If you're hoping to win or you go in there feeling like you're going to win, knowing you're going to win, he said, and I don't want no kid ever to play for me that hopes he's going to win. I want him to walk in the gym, whether it's Leesville going to Captain Shreve. Every kid on that bus that got off of Robbie Causey thought they were going to beat Captain Shreve.
Right.
The scoreboard showed them different. They got on the bus. They went home. Tomorrow they'll be back on the practice field. But they all got off that bus believing it, and that's what you got to do to be a successful coach. And that's why we're blessed in our area of the state where we got really good coaches.
Look, there's two things I don't want to be a part of. One of them is an upset win, because that's where you're thinking you weren't a part of that, you weren't supposed to do it, and the other is a moral victory. Because I don't there's not a banner around that's got moral victories listed in the victory column at all. So that's two things. I don't want it to be an upset. If you go out there and you beat a team, you're supposed to beat that team. That's
no doubt.
Way. So that's exactly right. Going to take our final break of the night. When we come back, we're going to wrap up week 2 one more time with a couple of things that we talked about. I want you guys during the break to think, is there a candidate maybe for your wide receiver pick for your fantasy team that's coming up at the end of the season? Okay. Give us something to think about. We'll be right back after this. We're live from Walk-Ons.
In Central Louisiana, you might see me at the ballparks or soccer fields, or we might cross paths at the grocery store. I'm your local Farm Bureau insurance agent, your local expert when it comes to protecting what you love and depend on. I'm Jason Hawk. Learn more about how Farm Bureau Insurance can save you time and money. So talk to Hawk at 318-791-HAWK and let me help you protect your biggest investments. Real service, real people. Farm Bureau Insurance.
It all started with a sketch on a napkin. An idea created by 2 walk-on bench warmers. And after 10 years of hard work and perseverance to turn their dream into a reality, it's the #1 sports bar in America.
Welcome to Walk-On.
Walk-Ons, because everyone needs a little playing time.
Back live from Walk-Ons, our final segment of the night. Setting up, look, I'm telling you what, we've got 8 weeks of the regular season left, plus the playoffs, and you're covering how many teams down there?
We got 8.
8. It seemed, you see what I did there? You've got a team for every for every night of it, and every week of it, and then we'll get that going. So I'll leave that to the man from West Louisiana to set that up on there. I know you've got, look, that phone been blowing up since we've been here as well. But
we're getting a lot of Manny Tiger love tonight. I know we're getting Eagle love, but a lot of Manny fans are looking, and they were really thankful that we mentioned the Tigers.
Look, without a doubt we do, and we've always done it from an outsider's look. I know that I have, for the simple fact that, I mean, you get set, and you guys are doing it, and you have to go out and cover all of these games, and I get a little bit of tunnel vision covering what it is that I cover on there. But it's great to see these teams, and I mean the passion in BNC basketball and baseball and softball is second to none, and I push that over to the 1A and 2A and these small town schools, because I mean Friday Night Lights was not a saying invented from your big towns on there. It's small community places that are living for their Friday nights. I mean, you hear the town shuts down so that Manny can go to the Dome. There's nobody left in there. I got to believe Rose Pine, that's going to be the same thing when they go to the Dome. You see what I did there?
Well, for that 12 o'clock state championship baseball game, Rose Pine was empty, and somebody asked me, well, I wonder how many listeners you got. And I said, from Rose Pine, none.
That's right, they're all here.
Because the ones, everybody I'm related to in Rose Pine's in the bleachers, and the rest of them I know. So I said, in Rose Pine, none. Across the parish, maybe a lot, but Rose Pine, none. And it was just the great fan support that get behind these schools. And the other night at Pickering, they had a good fan base for their first home game. Their booster club's doing everything they can to make these kids, feel good about themselves. And then, the Wampus Cats, you've always got that home base up there. And then just the Manny Tigers, second to none. They come out with the fireworks and turf field. And it's really cool when, like you're talking about, when you drive down these old dark roads and you look and there's lights on, it's a football or a baseball game.
That's right.
And turn in and go. I always turn in, just go check out, sit there and on the hill and look at the scoreboard.
The number one way to find out if people are listening to your radio show, say grandbaby's name wrong. And see if you don't find
Amen.
See if you don't find out who's listening at that point. So, all right. So your wide receiver, that you think, hey, look, this guy's been standing out. Let's see what maybe he makes the end of the year fantasy football team.
I think that honestly, Davion Grubb, coming off of a season-ending surgery last year with his shoulder, missed a whole year. Opening night at Jennings, 2 touchdowns, a big kickoff, a big interception. He's a kid at Leesville that could step up and do big things. And then at Rose Pine, Cole Donahue's, I know he's a tight end, wide receiver type kid. That kid is really good. And then on the other wide receiver, you got Jake Smith. And shout out to Jake, he committed yesterday as a shortstop. Talking about how good his hands is.
Yep.
Shortstop to Louisiana Tech.
Saw that.
Jake's a kid that when you start watching Grant or Merriweather or Cole, Jake's that kid can go make that one big catch when you need it and get you that big gain to keep that drive alive. And when the ball goes his way, he's going to catch it.
Well, there you have it. That's a preliminary candidate. Lamar, what do you have?
You know what? I'm going to go up to Grant Parrish for my two guys.
I knew you would.
Yeah.
Grant is
and some of those high-powered offenses there. I'll start off with Grant here. Eli Morrison, he's one of those guys here. I have, like I said, I think I have Brady Parker as my quarterback. So why not go with his wide receiver just to kind of get double points there a little bit. But also I'll go up to upper Grant Parrish and J.T. Turner out of Montgomery.
Saw him play against Menard in that jamboree.
This is a guy who can do almost everything. Catch the ball, throw the ball, run the ball, play defense. I think he even sells popcorn sometimes whenever he's not doing anything. And I think this is a guy that can really do a lot of things for this team here. He's a stat stuffer, and he's probably the only guy that they have right now this season, but he is going to be electric for them.
If I only had one choice to make, and it was preliminary for my wide receiver slot, I would go with T.J. Johnson, Dalen Hammond, and Amirion Mingo. Yes, that's 3 of them, but it's okay, and I can get run out of here after that's over with. I try not to make selections along the year because I don't want it to seem like being a homer, as I call the Trojans games throughout the year. But excited about all of these new folks that we're seeing from all the way from Toledo Bend over to the Mississippi. And we've yet to get into that Catahoula and those areas, Concordia areas that are getting over there, and I promise you we'll get into that next week. If you're interested in being one of our takeover teams and you want to bring your school in for a spirit night here, make sure that you check with us. You can message this page directly, or I know that you have Will's phone number. Everyone that's out there has Will's phone number in those 3 parishes, I believe, and of all the Lamar, they can find plenty of ways to get in touch with you.
Absolutely.
As well. So give us a message. We've talked about a lot of things tonight. Big week 2 in the books, getting ready for week 3. Lamar, final thoughts?
Yeah, you know what? Week 2, pretty good week for a lot of teams. Some statement wins, obviously with Ash making a statement win there. And I just think that we got about 8 more weeks to go on this football season. So, buckle up for the ride.
Absolutely. One last thing, Will?
I just think that football is tied into 3 seasons. I think you got your non-district, which we're going to be wrapping up in the next 2 weeks.
Yep.
Then you got your district, then you got your playoffs, and I think everybody's preparing. The win-loss records right now they don't care about as much. They're preparing their teams for district, and I think when district comes that it's going to be a joy to watch.
want to keep an eye on that St. Mary's Menard game. Menard, in a bad way, needs to get a victory in that one. They need to go up there and do that. One of the local teams had a tough one against Pineville, had a tough one at St. Fred's week 1 and 2. Need to get back on track and get Justin Charles and that group up and going from Menard.
A battle of 2 former LC Wildcats and Justin Charles and Aaron York, so I think that's going to be a pretty good one too.
It's going to be a fun one, if not anything else. Guys, that's going to wrap it up tonight for our game on CENLA. Certainly want to thank our executive producer, Chuck Perkins, for pushing all the buttons and adding things and helping us to the cool graphics that we've got under there, too.
I love them.
And look, I was looking at the wrong side. Lamar's on this side on the screen, and so I get confused throughout the night. But that's not real difficult to keep me confused on there. I told you see the look that Chuck made when I said that? That was the one I saw.
That was the look
that I told you about a little bit earlier on there. And, of course, Will Norris from BWS Sports from that Sabine, Vernon, and Beauregard area. And you can find out anything you want. Go and like and follow BWS Sports if you've not done that. Lamar Gafford from the Town Talk. Lamar from everywhere. It seems like there's like 12 Menards. 12 Lamars. I had him at 2 shows that I did at the same time. I don't know how that worked, but he was at both of them. So a big thanks to you guys, but and everyone listening, especially Mama Eagle that's out there watching and watching along and listening.
You're going to meet her in the very near future, I promise.
I cannot wait. I'm an honorary Eagle. I can see that coming out there. But above all else, I certainly want to thank God for gracing us and giving us the ability to do what we love just one more time. That's going to wrap it up here live from Walk-Ons. I am Doug Gann. Thank you all. God bless you, and good night.
Good night.
Good night.